A surge in coronavirus cases forcing California's Bay Area to roll back its reopening plans. NBC News correspondent Jacob Ward joining us now. Jake, what's going on in the Bay Area?
You know, Allison, this place was really the standard bearer for how the nation should handle this coronavirus. You'll remember that on March 16th, before anyone else was thinking about shutting down, shelter-in-place orders were put in place for the 8 million people of the Bay Area, where I'm standing right now. And we reaped the benefits. There was an early flattening of the curve, which is what everyone was after. Now we're actually seeing some good news in the last week when it comes to California as a whole, a drop of about a fifth when it comes to the average weekly positive test rate. But here in the Bay Area, we are suddenly seeing a surge. We've seen for, again, the 8 million people of the Bay Area, a rise from a daily average of 217 new cases in the middle of June up to now an average of over 870 cases a day as of just a couple of days ago. And that seems to indicate both a sort of complacency on the part of people who are going back to gatherings, and of course it's falling most heavily on the essential workers, the underprivileged communities, all of the people that are doing the hard work for California. We saw, for instance, that here in Alameda County, Oakland, where I'm standing, Latinos accounted for more than half of the new cases most recently, and yet that group only accounts for about 22% of the county as a whole. So it's falling very hard on people who have to work. And so whether it's desperation, complacency, the coronavirus is definitely finding purchase here in California, Alice.
And Jake, let's not forget about local businesses, small businesses struggling to get through this that may have to close again. What are their plans? How are they trying to get through this? It just, my heart breaks for them, because every time they think that they've made some progress, maybe they might get back to business, there's another setback.
There's really no good outcome for almost any business right now, Allison. You're absolutely right. I mean, when you look at the July 13th order put in place by the state of California, you're seeing everything: malls, personal care services, that's massage parlors, that's salons, that's hairstylists, all the way through to anyone, you know, operating a bar or a nightclub. Those are all shut down. The only exceptions are places that serve alcohol with a meal in an outdoor setting. And that means that, in fact, some owners have come together, banded together. You've seen bars and restaurants come together and say, okay, let's see if we can offer this together to fit into the state's mandate and eke out a little extra money. But, you know, we've talked to brew pubs and so forth that are selling for the first time cans of beer when in the past they had packed their establishment with people drinking at the bar. And they say, you know, we spoke to one owner in San Francisco who said that he had gone from a weekly average of over $100,000, sometimes $200,000 in revenue per week, down to now about $1,500. The Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco is reporting that, in fact, they think that about 1/3 of the restaurants in Chinatown in San Francisco may be forced to close. So it is just a swath of destruction, you know, moving through the small business community here.
Jake, how about the schools? Are teachers and students still heading back to the classroom? What are local districts doing?
You know, it is such a mixed set of signals that parents are getting here. And, you know, like with so many districts across the country, the news is coming very late and very suddenly to parents that they may, in fact, be home for a big chunk of the school year, at least through September, maybe even through December. You know, it's not clear. And at the same time, you have very different decisions being made district by district. San Jose Unified has now said that its teachers must, in fact, do the virtual instruction that everyone stuck at home is having to do. But those teachers have to give that instruction from the school. And so you can imagine that a working teacher who is also a parent suddenly has to find childcare, isn't sure what to do. There is no work from home option in that case. And so it is definitely a jumble of you know, a real jumble here. You've seen academics at UC Berkeley and elsewhere recommending that we should take advantage of the great outdoors, one of the great resources available to us in California, and make instruction something that can happen outdoors. But with school districts crunched here, with the student-teacher ratios already out of whack in a pre-coronavirus world, it's hard to imagine how you could have one teacher, you know, as many as 30, maybe even 40 kids in a class, all put together in one outdoor space. It's just an impossible situation for so many people. So definitely the system being stretched here in California, Alice.
No doubt. Jake Ward in the Bay Area, thanks so much. It's great to see you. Florida is reopening its coronavirus testing sites after Tropical Storm ISAIS forced them to shut down. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joining me now. Sam, I understand you're at a testing site that offers a rapid response antigen test. Could you tell us about that? How does that work?
This is a new wrinkle, Allison. Good to be with you, because the states really suffered in the midst of this crisis from a lag in test results, in some cases 10 days or more. Imagine that, these poor patients that are waiting that long to find out. In addition, you don't know what the trends are in real time when there's that kind of lag. So what we're talking about at Hard Rock Stadium over my shoulder, also Marlins Park, which is in downtown Miami, they're doing antigen rapid response testing. It's about 15 or 20 minutes to get the result of that test. And antigen really is detecting the protein that is forming a viral response in your immune system. So it's your immune system being active, as opposed to antibodies, which show that the presence of an infection was in your blood at some point. This is real time. The problem with it, Allison, is that the accuracy is not as good as when you send these results off to a lab. It's analyzed there and then comes back. We talked to an infectious disease expert, Dr. Jill Roberts, with the University of South Florida, to find out what are the upsides and also what are the downsides of this particular strategy.
It's really important that anyone who gets that test is counseled on how likely it is to maybe not be accurate. And so what you can see with a lot of these rapid tests is when they say they're positive, they're right. They really are positive. But when they say they're negative, they're not always right.
And so that's the problem. And I asked Dr. Roberts, what percentage of the time is it accurate? She said it depends on the test, but usually between 80 and 90% of the time. Pretty good. But it's evident the state right now is sacrificing some of that accuracy in the name of expediency. Allison?
Sam, we're hearing about an event in Florida that Governor Ron DeSantis attended where people may have been exposed to the coronavirus. What do you know about that?
This was last week, Allison. It was a Florida Sheriff's Association meeting that had 60 people at it, among them Governor DeSantis. Now, what we've learned is that 5 people since that event have tested positive for COVID-19. Everybody was notified a couple days after the event. The Florida Sheriff's Association says they took all kinds of precautionary measures, from 10+ feet between the tables to everybody wearing masks. And a spokesperson for Governor DeSantis says he is tested regularly, so far has no symptoms, at no point has exhibited any symptoms, and that there's no concern right now. But he was at an event where 1/12 of the people got COVID-19. Allison?
Yeah, certainly a little bit alarming. I know they'll be keeping an eye on that. Top White House officials say they are no closer to reaching an agreement with Democrats on a new stimulus package.
Well, we haven't gotten, we've started a good foundation. I will say this, Secretary Mnuchin is prepared to make a few proposals that hopefully will be met with enthusiasm.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell joins me now. Leanne, what happened today? And I guess the short answer to that is not much.
Well, Allison, the meeting with Pelosi and Schumer and Mnuchin and Meadows just broke up moments ago. We've only heard from the Democratic side of that meeting, where Schumer came out and said that they actually made a little bit of progress, that they made some concessions, that the administration made some concessions, and that the talks are ongoing. The reality is these things are moving extremely slowly, Allison. The good news is that they're still happening, that they're still talking. But, Mnuchin, when we just saw Mnuchin and Meadows there, that was before their meeting. We are waiting to hear what Mnuchin and Meadows say about this meeting with Schumer and Pelosi. Because a lot of times it's in the eye of the beholder. Democrats have been slightly more optimistic throughout than Republicans. So, hopefully Mnuchin and Meadows will speak any moment. We know that he's meeting with Senate Majority Leader McConnell right now to give him the lowdown of what happened in the meeting. And then we'll see. But the bottom line is the things are going to take time. These are very incremental negotiations, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon.
Leanne, you did say it, though. At least they are still talking. That's something. Yeah. Any progress on that $600 weekly unemployment bonus? I know that has been a huge sticking point.
It is absolutely a huge sticking point, and it continues to be so. I asked Senator Schumer about that today, if he's willing to, if that is his red line, the additional $600 a month. He says he doesn't have any red lines, but then he went into this passionate speech almost in response to my question, saying that it is completely necessary for the $600 and why it is so important to Democrats. So they don't seem to be budging that much on that. But Republicans, on the other hand, the problem is they do not have a unified position on unemployment insurance. And McConnell gave a very interesting response to that question when he was asked by our colleague Casey. Here's what he had to say.
I just said it's not going to produce a kumbaya moment like we had in March or April where everybody voted aye. But the American people, in the end, need help. And wherever this thing settles between the President of the United States and his team that have to sign it into law and the Democrat, not insignificant minority in the Senate and majority in the House, is something I'm prepared to support, even if I have some problems with certain parts of it.
So McConnell indicated there that he said in few words that that the $600 is something that is negotiable because, again, Republicans just have been all over the place on this issue. They said $200, and now there's other proposals of $400, and then there's a scale back. And so when they don't have a unified position, it really weakens their hand at these negotiations. And McConnell also made the point that a lot of his members, regardless of what it is not going to vote for this bill. So perhaps there is a lot of room for Republicans to move towards the Democrats' position on this idea of unemployment insurance, Allison.
Leanne, Secretary Mnuchin also said today that the White House is prepared to consider executive action if they can't reach a deal here. What do we know about that?
Yeah, it's something that the administration has been floating for a few days now, and they're talking about these ideas of an executive action on a eviction moratorium, perhaps something on unemployment insurance, and perhaps something on a payroll tax cut. All of these things, it is extremely unclear if that's something that the administration can even do. But even more importantly, it is being received on Capitol Hill very coolly. Republicans even say that it would not be a good idea for the administration to move unilaterally, even if they had the authority to do it. So most people up here are just dismissing it as messaging and empty threats. But empty threats don't really have a lot of sway in these negotiations at this point. So for the most part on Capitol Hill, the response has just been, a little bit of a backhand wave at that.
All right, Leanne, so we haven't exactly made tremendous progress, but you said at bottom line, we're still talking. Let's see how things go into the evening today, and let's see how things go tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.